And now I wanted to talk to you guys about something in the media that is in the British tabloid press. I'm talking about famous footballer Marcus Rashford, who has donated to a lot of charitable causes, but is probably most well known for lobbying the government in order to provide free UK school meals for those who are the poorest across the country. However, this is not what the Daily Mail has captured in their latest article. They've been focusing on the fact that he has bought 5 properties totaling around £2 million. Now, Marcus Rashford has responded to the backlash, or the Daily Mail, should I say, on Twitter, saying that he came from very little and he has bought these properties in order to protect himself and to provide for his family in the future. Now, we talked about the Sainsbury's ads, and we've also seen a rise and increase in charity adverts, which have been asking us and encouraging us to help the homeless or to provide gifts or donations for those who are most in need. But I wanted to ask you ladies, if you are earning a significant amount of money, how much of it should you be giving to charity versus setting up for your family financially in the future?
I have so many feelings. I don't think that Marcus should have had to explain himself, because after this article came out, he was tweeting about how he came from humble beginnings, and I don't think that should have had to happen. I don't think we should be judging rich people on how they spend their riches whilst also being jealous of rich people because they have riches. And I don't think that we should be waiting to be wealthy to give to charity, because if we have that mentality, then we're never going to be wealthy enough. I think we can relate wealth to evilness. And I think when we do that, we kind of then we have the bad rich guy and the good rich guy, and we kind of try to justify in our mind why we are okay with someone having wealth. And so with Marcus's case, like I said, we're like, oh, he came from humble beginnings, he does this and that for charity and blah, blah, blah. When actually, like, as an example of what I think we should be doing, in Islam, you have pillars of faith, and one of the pillars is zakat, which I've probably definitely pronounced wrong, but that is the pillar of charity, which says that everyone has to give 2.5% of their wealth to charity each year. It doesn't say crane your neck and see what the other person's doing and judge them on how much they have and how much you think they should be spending. It redirects our focus to ourselves and how we can be helping. I think, let me leave it there for now, because I have lots of thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I was not surprised by the Daily Mail, because it's the Daily Mail, so of course they were going to print what they were going to print. I think I was a little bit like, I just didn't think he should have tweeted it, because only people who are like psychopaths in my mind would have been like, saw that Daily Mail and like, yeah, he's a wrong'un. Clearly, obviously, it was an attack, because he's been trying to get kids free school meals that don't have any money, and so what they did is try to make him a bad guy. And I thought to myself, like, I felt like he didn't have to tweet that, because everybody with sane mind would have said, like, of course, this is just a cheap attack, like it doesn't mean anything. And it does bring into this whole wealth thing. I sometimes find that it's kind of like, you know, when an issue's happening and someone's like, my favourite rapper, Little Gucci down to the socks, didn't say that this person matters and they didn't come to the rallies. And it's like, but it's like, is that person a politician? Yes or no? So it's like, no, everyone has their own things they stand up for, their own cause. So we can't look at every wealthy person, in my mind, and say, you should be giving X amount of money. And sometimes as a people, we like to dictate things over other people's lives. Now, I agree with Luanda 100%. You don't have to be wealthy to give to charity. I think, you know, it always starts with a little, and a little goes a long way. But I do understand that sometimes with money comes a little bit of power and control, and with that you have more influence to be able to change things or implement things that drive a stronger change than maybe somebody on the ground. And it is my pet peeve, and I hate to say it, but it's my absolute pet peeve, and it is wild to say this, but it is my pet peeve when rich people tell me that I need to start giving and I need to give more. And what I mean by that is, I remember earlier this year when everyone's doing Instagram lives, P. Diddy did an Instagram live for charity. It was like a live-a-thon. And he was telling us all, we need to give. Diddy, I need to keep giving. Sorry, the target that you want to hit, you could just take it out of your wallet and give. And that's my only pet peeve. Is that sometimes like you're telling me I need to do more. Not say I don't know all that he's doing, but it was those kind of things are like my pet peeve when people dictate what you should do with money. When it's rich to the poor, when it's poor to the rich, I just hate it all. I hate it.
I guess for me, like I agree with both of you ladies, and I was reading globalcitizen.org, and they were saying that the wealthiest billionaires in the world, like if we amassed all of their fortunes together, it would total to like 10 trillion pounds or dollars. It's probably an American written article, but also that is 30 times the amount that is needed to end global poverty annually. And I think that's the thing that makes me so sad about poverty. When we look at who should be giving and the rich people and this and that, there is more than enough resources in the world to go around. Like the world provides more than enough for everybody to have enough. But we live in a society where having more is the best and having more is the best. So I think that's what makes it really difficult for me. But it's actually usually the poorest that give the most to charity. If you're talking about in general, that's actually a fact. And they say it's because they actually understand what it's like to be in that position. And if you're someone who has come from money, it's probably very difficult for you to empathize. Not all the time, but to a certain extent when you haven't been in that position. So in terms of how much should you give versus setting up your family, like for me, of course, like Marcus Rashford, I want my family to be secure. And if I can make that happen and everyone is going to be fine for all their needs and they get a lot of the things that they want that are reasonable and they're able to have a home to be safe in, then it is for me time to start thinking about, okay, how do I give back now? How else can I help people? Because I think it comes down to a mental thing. Like until we change the concept of I am not only answerable to myself, like the community is not just my nuclear family, and that's how we live in the UK. That's how I live. Like, I'm not judging anyone. I'm saying that's how the majority of us live. If it's within my family, they're going to have enough. If it's someone else's, like if I have the time or if I have the spare funds, but if we're not thinking of it as a global world and everything we do impacts on everybody else, there's no point looking to the rich because there's something that we can all do to contribute.
Yeah. I agree. There's definitely something that we can all do to contribute. I also kind of, I definitely would agree that it might be a little bit more difficult for you to understand what it's like to be poor if you've never been poor and if you've been born into wealth. But I also don't buy into the idea that rich people can't care about rich people just because they themselves are not experiencing poverty. And that's the angle that I feel the Daily Mail was trying to push against the Marcus, which is why I felt that he probably felt the need to defend himself. And it's interesting because that same media outlet, said David Beckham should be knighted for the charity work that he's done. And they also said Phil Foden look how well he's doing. He's setting up his family by buying his mom a house that cost £2 million. And David and Phil are also rich footballers doing the exact same thing that Marcus is doing. And there's only one small difference between them, but it completely changes the narrative that is slapped upon him. So I just think that's another thing that we should pay attention to. But I think when we're always looking towards, what are those rich people doing? How are you spending your money? Look how much money you have. There's always going to be someone richer than us. There's always going to be someone poorer than us. There's always going to be someone who thinks that we're rich, and there's always going to be someone that thinks that we're poor. So the only thing that we need to do is focus on what we're doing ourselves and how we're helping the community around us. And like Sophie said, the global community as well.
And I think I don't know if you was going to come in there, Anissa, but
go ahead, I'm still...
Okay, I think for Marcus Rashford as well, yeah, it's not even a little thing, Luanda, it's a big thing, the way that we make it in terms of race in this country. Do you know what I mean? In terms of what separates him from those other footballers, like you said, who are investing in property. And something that my husband said when we were talking about this news article, he was saying, if he spent his money lavishly and then retired in 10, 15 years and then he didn't have a penny to his name, then they'll be cussing him saying, well, why didn't he invest? And why didn't he do like this footballer who has invested? The man cannot win. And as much as Marcus Rashford is young, he's a young boy, his career could be over with a tackle. Like one wrong tackle and that's it. He's not getting any more money. He's not getting millions a year. His career is over. It is very transitory. No, it's not transitory, I don't think is the word is, but it's very temporary being a footballer. Like you hope that you can be like Ryan Giggs and play until you're 40, but the majority of people, that's not going to happen. You're going to probably get close to 30 in your 30s and then it's done. And then whatever you have is what you are going to live on for the rest of your life, considering a lot of these boys are taken out of schooling and don't leave with any qualifications, and then they're thrown back into the world to do what? Like the rate of alcoholism amongst ex-footballers is very high for a reason. So the fact that he has taken the initiative to say, this can't last forever, so what am I going to do? Because not all my family might be footballers. So they might not be able to all buy their houses when I can do it now and make sure that everybody is set up. And I think he's the sort of person we should be applauding and talking to younger footballers and say, be like Marcus Rashford. Care about the community. Make sure you're setting up your family and yourselves, because you know what? This could all be gone in a moment.
Yeah, and I just to even add on that, I definitely agree with you guys that maybe all this news coverage about Marcus Rashford has definitely been racially charged. I mean, at first I really wasn't thinking about it in that way. I just thought to myself like, oh, they're really coming at him just because of this free school meals. But I didn't even add that layer on into my mind. But I think Marcus Rashford is a perfect example of two things being true at the same time. Like, you can give charity and create change, but also build wealth within your family at the same time, and have two of those things exist. You get like, and I think us as sometimes, I honestly think sometimes as people we can be so one-dimensional. If there's one truth, we think, if there's one thing that's true, we're thinking this is the one solid truth, and not that things can exist at the same time and all be true. And I saw him investing in the houses as building wealth within his family. Like, he's the first rich person, so what he's going to do is give everybody a step up, and we're going to create some general wealth up in here, and then also help to feed all the less fortunate kids. But it's the way that it's been portrayed has made people act as if wealth, the only way, it's kind of like going back to Luanda's point, full circle, is wealth is seen as an evil thing. And if you're not using it in the way that the public see fit, then you are this like big evil villain. It's horrendous.
Yeah. And let's not forget that Marcus Rashford, outside of what he, the free school meals, has done a lot. Like, he was part of this gift box charity where they gave boxes to children who are impoverished around Christmas time, I think, and he donated.
And they didn't forget the pads.
Sorry, say that again.
They didn't forget the pads in the boxes as well. I really liked that. It's a nice touch.
Oh, that's nice.
Very nice. Like, he donated. He was part of that campaign and donated hundreds himself. And then he was part of a thing about the pandemic where footballers got together and donated up to £4 million from their own personal pockets. And then he went and saw all the children that were caught up in the Manchester bombing. Like, this guy is not someone who's just telling the government to give. He's dipping within his own pockets. And I feel really, I don't know him, but I'm really proud of him for what he's doing and setting that example, because why is the Daily Mail going after someone when we're used to seeing stories about the footballer who got drunk, fell out of a club, cheated on his wife, and is now with his mistress? But the one who wants to help, we're talking about, and look how he's trying to set up his family. Look how he's trying to provide for them in the future.
Forbid! No footballers end well. We knew. That's why everyone wants to be one. That's why everyone wants to be either a footballer or a wag. Like, we knew they're rich. We know. Like, it's not new information.